What's up everyone? So we've finally got a moth trap to go through. I put it out last night. It dropped to about 9 degrees last night, which for the time of year is okay, it's pretty mild. We have had some pretty cold nights recently, especially in the last couple of weeks, so for it not to drop below 9 should be some good moths in the trap, but we'll have a look, see if we've got any autumn treats in there. So our first moth is this chap. This is the silver Y, species I've featured many times. Possibly one of the most common migrant moths to the UK. They do breed very regularly as well. And they are common all year round, but especially throughout the summer. Lovely moth with a descriptive name. Got that Y-shaped marking in the wing. And the scientific name as well, the gamma part, relates to it looking like the Greek letter gamma. But that's silver Y. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, here's our next moth. I also featured this on a few moth trapping videos last autumn, but this is the green brindled crescent, and what an absolute gem of a moth it is. Very beautiful. Very common autumnal species, and there's various forms, some of which are quite dark and lack any green scales, but the more typical form, like this one here, has those green scales running especially around the outside of the wing, but also in the middle as well, giving it its name. It's a beautifully marked moth. We've got the Willow Beauty, which is a typical summer species flying from June to August. Occasional individuals appearing in September and October, indicating a second brood. But usually the caterpillars of these are the ones that will overwinter amongst the food plant, which could be ivy, hawthorn, willow, many deciduous trees and shrubs. But they're a nicely marked moth. No really bright colours on there, but great camouflage when resting on tree trunks and rocks during the day. That's Willow Beauty. So on this egg tray here, we have the very beautiful pink-barred sallow. Much of the sallows have a lovely yellowish background colour to them, but the pink-barred sallow has a lovely, more or less purplish band in the forewing, with also the odd blotches on the leading edge of the forewing as well. It's a beautiful autumnal moth, flying from September to October. Can often be seen feeding from ivy flowers at dusk, much like most of the autumn flying noctuid moths. They are quite partial to an ivy flower or two. It's a stunning thing. Also quite common throughout the UK, found in a variety of habitats, parklands, woodlands. Very beautiful thing. Okay, so down in there we have beaded chestnut, which is a very variable late summer and autumn moth. Ground colour and markings vary, so this form here is more or less orangey brown, but if we flip over to the back, we have a form down in there which is much better marked, but it's more of a greyish ground colour. But it's easily identified by the very thin, almost slit-like orbicular stigma, which is the mark above the kidney mark on the wing. But they are very variable. And another lovely autumnal species is the lunar underwing. Lovely markings, very pale veins which stand out on a dark colour, but again this moth can vary. It has a paler, almost sandy coloured form too. And the lunar underwing is so called because of a crescent or half-moon shaped mark on its hind wing. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, so apparently my cat is now guardian of the moth trap. He's chosen it as his morning place to sit, which isn't ideal. Now this beaded chestnut here is very orange, in fact. Has a lovely orangey brown ground colour, but not as well marked as the previous two that we've seen. But it is still the same species. And look at the colours on this one. Still beaded chestnut, but it's almost a green ground colour with pinkish red markings on it. Very interesting. I've got some interesting ones on here, so another orange beaded chestnut in there. But we've also got this moth here, this long greyish one. And this is Blair's shoulder knot. And it's a moth whose larvae feed on cypresses. Lawson cypress, Leyland cypress, trees like that, often planted in people's gardens. But this moth wasn't naturalised here in Britain until very recently, around the early 2000s, I think. But since then, with the planting of cypresses in people's gardens, much like my neighbour has in his garden, 2 big cypress trees, this moth has spread rapidly, and it's now locally common in many pockets throughout the UK. And I believe, thanks to my neighbour's cypress trees, I get it fairly regularly. And it's a nicely marked moth, camouflaged on tree bark. Got those black streaks and the shoulder knot there, that black mark near the thorax. It's a lovely thing. September to November is the flight season, so it is very much an autumn species. Doesn't overwinter and reappear in spring like our other shoulder knots. It's lovely. We've got a happily singing robin on the fence, most likely because he knows he's going to get a very good breakfast of various moths this morning. Here's a very nicely marked lunar underwing in there. Lovely. Look at this beaded chestnut. I was wondering what this was for a second. Very, very dark. Completely different colour to the rest. It just shows how variable certain species of moth can be. Apologies for the quality here, but I've just potted up this moth which we'll finish on. This is another of our sallows. This is dusky lemon sallow. And in Yorkshire at least, it's actually... He's going to go actually. That's actually quite a scarce moth. Hang on, see if I can film him. He's gone over there, I think. So it's actually quite a scarce moth in Yorkshire. The larvae feed on elm, which after Dutch elm disease was a lot more scarce. And so became this moth. But I still get it fairly regularly, couple a year. And it's a nicely marked moth. Not as bright yellow as many other sallows, but still nice to get. Dusky lemon sallow. So with that, we will finish. So we had some good autumnal moths. Blair's shoulder knot, green brindled crescent, pink barred sallow down there. Some nice species. Quite typical for an autumn moth trap in late September, but we'll see what we get in October. So if you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.